All right, looks like we're live. I don't have anybody in the chat right now, but maybe we will here in a second. Either way, we'll get the disclaimers out of the way. Let me zoom out just a tad bit. I felt like it was just a little tight and reach off the screens, but that's okay. Where was I? Disclosures. We'll get those out of the way. We'll see if anybody joins in the chat by the time I get done with that. So this is the weekly live broadcast. Those of you here all the time, you know this already, but I do this pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is a great place to come. Get your questions answered if you've had questions. Just talk about whatever you want to talk about. I don't put any restrictions on the topics. We can talk politics, religions, all that controversial stuff. The only things I ask is be polite, be family friendly, don't start cussing anybody, don't start calling anybody names, don't be hateful with anybody, any of that kind of stuff. We can have differences of opinions and still be friends. And, we don't have to hate each other just because one person has a different opinion than we do, or is on the other side of the political aisle than we are, any of that kind of stuff. We can all get along. So, with that being said, we can jump right into the live broadcast. But again, nobody's chatting. I don't have any topics planned out. I kind of let the chat drive the broadcast. And, sorry, got distracted. There was a comment. I let the chat drive the broadcast. I do my best to respond to every chat that comes in during the live broadcast itself. And we do have a chat coming in. So, we got Zohar says to store Caturnix at 60 degrees. Do you think my counter at 75 degrees is okay for 4 or 5 so days? Okay. I think you're talking about eggs, aren't you? I think you're talking about eggs. So 2 things. Yeah, they're more than likely going to be okay for 4 to 5 days. You may have, if they're fertilized, you may have 1 or 2 that kind of start to develop. But if it doesn't get really much warmer than 75 degrees, you're probably going to be just fine. So I don't think there'll be a problem with that at all. Lots of countries keep their eggs on the counter all the time. I mean, they never even put them in the fridge. They don't even refrigerate their eggs. As long as you don't wash them first. Just set them on the counter. Wash them right before you use them. That's it. If you wash them, then you wash off the bloom that surrounds the eggshell, and that can open them up to bacterial infection and all kinds of things, make them not last nearly as long. So don't wash them first. You can go ahead and keep them on the countertop. Probably fine for 4 or 5 days at 75 degrees. I don't think it'd be a problem. You want to probably, when you go to crack them open, crack them into a separate bowl. Make sure you don't have any, blood spots in them or any of that kind of stuff. You don't want to have a whole bowl full of eggs you're cracking eggs into, and the last one had a big blood spot, ruins the whole thing. Unless you want to eat that, which I don't. That's kind of gross to me. I'd throw those out. But anyhow, Chester Hickman's here, says good evening, and Bruce Fahey, I think it is, says good evening to everyone. So good evening to both of you guys. Thanks for joining. And Buck Reynolds is here from Claremore, Oklahoma. Says, hope everyone is well. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. I don't know where Claremore is. I probably say that every time, but not very far down the road from me. Pretty close, actually. Less than an hour away, I think. Actually, now I think about it, I think Claremore is about 20 minutes or so. Let's see what it says. Oh, no. It's further than that. It's an hour and 20 minutes. That can't be right. It's close to that, I guess. It's closer to Tulsa than I was thinking. But anyway, not too far. All right, slow night tonight. We got 13 people here. We got 2 likes already, but we got nobody chatting tonight, which makes it tough. Let me make sure I've got all my chat on. I do, so we're good. I think so. Zara says, I get 25 eggs a day and starting to incubate 100 eggs tonight. First time, wish me luck. Good luck. Hopefully that all goes well. If you haven't already, you can check out my video series I did several years ago, but I did on improving your hatch rate. You probably maybe have already checked that out. I don't know, but it gives you all kinds of tips on that. It's really not that complex. I'm sure you're going to do great. Clifton says, hello, everyone from South Mississippi. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate that. And what else we got going on here? Let me see real quick. Zora says, I watched all your videos on quail. Great stuff. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you for watching, too. It's glad you're finding good information there, and glad you're finding stuff that you can use. And, again, good luck on your hatch. I hope it goes well. All right. Buck Reynolds says 11 miles from Tulsa. Yeah, I got that mixed up. For some reason, I was thinking Claremore was closer than it was. It gets closer to Tulsa than I thought, but it's been a while since I've been to Tulsa or to Claremore for that matter. So kind of forgot. But either way, still not that far, just a little over an hour away. So I don't know. I said I don't go to Tulsa very often. Hardly ever, actually. So I used to more often when I was younger. I would run to Tulsa had a friend that lived there, and to the zoo there. I kind of liked the zoo that they had, but it's been years since I've actually gone to Tulsa. All right. Well, I hope everybody's doing well. Like I said, slow chat tonight. It's going to make for kind of a boring broadcast because I don't have anything planned out to talk about. I should probably have something planned out to talk about. I say that every time, but so far I've been pretty lucky with having the chat kind of drive the way that the broadcast is going to go. Hey, there's Rabbit Homesteading. It says, "Hey, I made it, Chris." Or I said, "Hey, I made it. Hi, Chris." Well, hello to you too. Thank you for joining. Chester Hickman says, "Chris, how are the baby rabbits doing? It has been a while since I have been on a chat." Well, they're doing fine. I don't have any silver foxes left. I sold all but one. And then I had an issue a couple days ago where the camera I've got out there caught a couple of pit bulls, got loose from somebody. They've been around before. I've seen them on the camera a couple of times. They usually don't hang around very long, but they were out there for a little while. I got a camera footage of them at like 2 a.m, pestering my rabbits. And when I went out there to check them the next morning, I didn't wake up whenever this was going on. I slept right through it. So I woke up and I saw that there were videos on the camera or from the camera saved on the phone. I checked, looked at it, saw the dogs going there harassing the rabbits. They were up under the cages, kind of jumping up at them and stuff like that. And then I went out to check on them that morning when I did get up and, feeding water, that kind of stuff. And my one silver fox buck was in the grow out cage over there, and he was gone. The feeder was pushed out of the feeder hole, and it had been wired in there. I had wire around it holding it in. All that was gone. The feeder was still there. It was on the ground, but it was gone out of the deal in the wiring that I had that, was wiring it to the cage. That was gone too. So he was pretty good size at that point. I guess he could have squeezed through there. I don't know why he would have. But either way, those dogs ran him. I haven't seen him, so I think they got him and took off with him somewhere. So lost him, but the Tamuks are doing great. They're not growing as fast as I'd like. A couple weeks old now, but they're doing really, really well. No issues at all with them. Square Body LT says, "Good evening from Albuquerque. The mother of my kids sold the second of 2 roosters that her chicken just hatched in April." That her chickens just hatched in April. Okay. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but she sold the second of 2 roosters that her chickens hatched in April. Well, I don't know how to respond. I don't know if that's good or bad. But I would probably sell the roosters too if it was me. Andy says, "Hey, everybody from Southwest Michigan. We've been camping the last couple of weeks. It's good to be back. I kind of miss camping. I haven't gone camping in a while. I need to do it again sometime soon." I didn't get any videos out this week. It's the normal stuff, kind of hard to come up with new topics all the time and new things to address in video. But I also took Monday off. We had a 4-day weekend. I got really no excuse. I just kind of got tied up. Went out with some family on Saturday. Went to my cousin's house on Friday. They shut off fireworks. And then that same cousin and some other family, we went out on Saturday, had dinner at one of the newer local restaurants here. It was really good. Went bowling, actually. Hadn't done that in years. And then Monday, took the day and went fishing. Fishing was very slow, but I didn't do any camping. So I'm kind of jealous there. But glad to have you back either way. And Rabbit Homestead wants to know, where did you camp? Interesting question. Zora wants to know, how many does can you have for 1 buck rabbit? Well, that kind of depends on how sorry, I got distracted. Kind of depends on how many of them you want to be bred at the same time. Bucks can service, at least 1 doe, probably 2 per day, honestly. You might give them a little bit of a break in between, but you could have several. You could have, if you wanted to stretch out the breeding, you could have an unlimited amount of does, really, for that matter. I usually would go with probably at least, 1 for every 3 to 4 does, something like that. That would let you breed them all. You could probably breed them all in 2 days roughly, maybe twice a day, you know, one in the morning, one in the evening, and then the next one the next morning, the next one the next evening, and probably be okay. But you can do, I mean, if you want to stretch the breeding out further, you could do a whole bunch of them. So I know that's not a straightforward answer, but there isn't necessarily a set number of does per buck that you can do. It just kind of depends. David Lister says, huff, puff, hot taking care of wife's chickens, but made it. Well, thanks for making it to the live. We appreciate that. Hopefully the chickens are doing well. Buck Reynolds says, too hot rabbits don't grow when it's hot. They don't grow good when it's hot, they should say. Yeah, it could be the heat. I mean, we've been hot, but not incredibly hot. I think we barely broke 90, honestly, all summer. But that's still pretty warm, I know. Humidity is just kind of starting to pick up. But hasn't been terribly hot like it usually is this point of year, or this time of the year. And it could be that. It could have something to do with the heat. Now, these are Tamucks. They're supposed to be heat tolerant. They don't seem to be really struggling necessarily. They're clearing out their feeder every single day. So we'll just have to see. Chester says, I use 1 buck rabbit for 3 to 4 does, and that's probably a good ratio. You could do more again, like I said, if you wanted to stretch out the breeding quite a bit, but 1 to every 3 to 4 is probably a good ratio. Zora says, always hot here in South Texas, 95 to 96 every day. Yeah, I lived in East Texas for a little while. It was, I mean, well, it wasn't hot every day, but most of the year it was hot. A little bit of winter, like a month of winter, January, February kind of, and then hot again. But not, the people in Texas were always surprised when I lived there. They would say, oh man, it's hot here. I bet you wish you were back home today. And man, it's hotter there than it is here. They didn't believe me. I'd have to pull out my phone, look at the weather, and like, look, hotter in Missouri than it is here in Texas. And just a couple degrees hotter, but still hotter. They'd say, oh, well, yeah, but you don't have the humidity. And I'd have to show them, look, the humidity is like 78%, you know, and they, oh, well, okay, never mind. You know, they always think it's so unique there in Texas. But yeah, Texas is a little, I mean, there are parts that are a little bit different. The big difference is not that it got so much hotter. It just was hotter longer. You know, where we have like fall and winter and spring, and Texas has summer and like a week of fall maybe. And, you know, like I said, maybe 3 weeks or a month of kind of winter, and then back to summertime. Square Body LT said she had about a 50% hatch, 7 chickens hatched. She kept the year-old father rooster. Well, there you go. Chester wants to know what part of East Texas. I lived in Nacogdoches for about 7 years. Rabbit Homesteading says, I work at a feed mill and we own our own pigs. In the summer, they go on a high-calorie diet because the heat makes them not want to eat. So when they do, they still get the calories. In the winter, more. Winter diet is lower on calories for the pigs. Well, that makes sense. I feed a high-protein feed. Well, it's not terribly high right now. I'm at 16%, I think, protein. But I don't really supplement anything. I just feed the pellets right now, and they're doing fine. They're just not growing out real fast right now, but that's okay. David says 9 of our 16 partridge eggs were fertile when I candled them at lockdown. 5 partridge chicks so far with 1 pipping. Well, awesome. Congratulations on that so far. Hopefully they all hatch out. 9 of 16. I mean, that's a little bit low, I guess, on fertility, but I don't know what it is for partridges compared to quail. But still, hopefully you get a good hatch out of that. Bruce says, RH with a question mark, does the mill allow you to mix your own feed? Oh, that's rabbit homesteading. Do they allow you to mix your own feed? Good question. Buck Reynolds wants to know, how old are your rabbits? Which ones? The babies? You know, I got to check on that. They're just a couple of weeks. Let me look real quick at the notes and see the dates. I've got a date here somewhere that tells me when they were born. Let me see if I can figure that out. Let's see, when was that? Yeah, they're about 4 weeks old right now, actually. Almost exactly. So just they were born June 1st, I believe it was. Let me look back. Yeah, a little over a month old, and they're still pretty very much on the small side. Let's see. Rabbit Homesteading says, Bruce, they would put 6-ton mixer needs at least 2 ton to mix right. What? They would, but 6-ton mixer needs at least 2 tons to mix right. There you go. That makes sense. There's Caesar. Good to see you. It says, hello, Chris. Hope all is well. It is. Thank you. Hopefully you are too. Zora says, a local feed mart that has quail starter at $13 per 50 pounds. It is 28% protein, and they said it's fine to feed to start to finish with Caternix. That sound good. Yeah, that sounds great. I usually feed a 30%, but a 28% is great. So yeah, $13 a bag, can't beat it. 28% protein is perfectly fine. As long as it's got the calcium requirements, about 1.5% roughly of calcium, you should be good. You shouldn't need anything else. Rabbit Homesteading says, if anybody wants to mix their own feed on a larger scale, use a cement mixer. There you go. Life Done Cheap with Lee says, hello, Chris and everyone. What would cause my New Zealand to kill her 2 kits after taking good care of them for over 2 weeks? Oh, boy, there's so many different scenarios that can go into that. First of all, is she a first-time mom? That may have something to do with it. 2 weeks, yeah, it's rare, I would say, for even a first-time mom to kill her 2 kits after 2 weeks. Sometimes if they get super stressed out or something like that, they might. There's a lot of different factors that can go into that, especially, like I said, if she's a first-time mom. If she's not a first-time mom, if she's had several successful litters, I'd be a little more concerned, especially with only having 2 kits. That's kind of a small litter. It's not unusual for first-time moms or new mother rabbits to have a smaller litter and then something crazy to go on with that litter. I would say it's kind of unusual for it to happen 2 weeks after they're born, but not unheard of. Give her another chance, she'll probably be okay. I can't really give you a definitive answer as exactly to what happened, but more than likely she's going to do better with her future litters. All right, we've got Hogwaller Creek Homestead says, howdy from Travelers Rest, South Carolina. Hello to you too. Thank you for joining. You guys, I saw something about some really bad storms going through up that direction. I think maybe it was North Carolina. I don't remember. And maybe some flooding. Hopefully you're doing okay. Mr. Modest says, my quails got coccidiosis. I treated them with cord for 5 days. How long do I have to wait before I can eat the eggs and the meat again? I want to say cord's like a 30-day, but I don't really know. Let me look real quick. Let me see if I can figure that out. Well, AI on Google search says 24 hours, but that doesn't sound right. Okay, maybe it's shorter than that. The Backyard Chickens Forum says 10 days. I think I would err more on the side of 10 days than I would 24 hours. That seems awful short. Yeah, so I'd give him like at least 2 weeks, and then you're probably okay. David Lister says, are first-time buck rabbits prone to low numbers of kits? Only 2 kits out of a first-time buck. The doe has had several good litters. I wouldn't say, I've never noticed that actually. I've had first-time bucks produce pretty good-sized litters. I don't know that I've ever noticed an issue with that. I've had first-time bucks bred with first-time does, and that produced a small litter, but I don't know if that's because of the buck or the doe. I guess it could be that. That's unusual for sure, but every once in a while the rabbits just have a really small litter for whatever reason. Who knows? Maybe it could be. It could definitely be the buck's first time, and that's why. How old was he? I guess would be the question. Life Done Cheap with Lee says, yeah, first time mom. She had 6 but lost 4 in a few days. So yeah, Yeah, I would just give her another chance. I wouldn't stress about it too much. It, sometimes those first time moms, they just don't know what they're doing yet. They get the hang of it after another litter usually. Um, that's the best I can tell you, honestly. Hogwaller Creek says, yeah, North Carolina. Okay. Well, hopefully everybody there in North Carolina is okay. My sister lives in North Carolina now, but she would have let me know if she was affected by it, so I guess they're okay. Let's see. Sax Place says, good evening from Southwest Ohio. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Zora says 1.5% calcium, 28% protein. Should I supplement calcium for my layer Caternix? No, you don't need to. At 1.5%, that's about the requirement that they need for, that is the requirement, really. They don't have super high calcium requirements. So you should be fine. If you decide that you want to add additional calcium, don't mix it in with their feed. Offer it as a side. They'll eat as much as they want, but you really don't need to do it. I've never supplemented my quail with calcium. They're at 1.5 to 2% calcium, and they do just fine. Bruce says, Herman, how hot did it get there today? Who's Herman? Who are we talking to? Did I miss it? Is that... I'm not sure who we're talking to. We'll find out, I guess. Let's see. Rabbit Homestead says, for the treatment, if they lay an egg a day, it seems it would be flush out after a day. Not really an egg a day, though. Maybe after they lay a few eggs, it all flushes out, but I don't know. Well, talking about the Corid, yeah, I would probably go 2 weeks just to be on the safe side. Hogwaller Creek Homestead says, is it necessary to put hardware cloth down on a flight pen for bob white quail on the ground? Not necessary. No, you don't have to put hardware cloth down. The thing you may have to worry about would be if you have a predator problem in your area and the predator's digging under the fence or under the wire to get in. And that would be a good reason to put down some kind of hardware cloth or something to kind of help keep the predators out. But no, it's not necessary. Buck Reynolds says, how big is your litter? Wait, how big of a litter is your first time out of check his genetics? What? How big of a litter is your first time out of check your... I don't know what you're saying exactly. Hogwaller Creek says to keep rats out. Yeah, that could. I mean, it could definitely keep rats out. You probably want to do something to, if you have a rat problem in your area or something like that, you probably want to do something. You don't have to necessarily wire the entire bottom of the cage, though. You could probably just put the wire, I don't know, out a foot or so around the outside of the pen. Maybe bury it down just below the surface, and that would probably be okay. Andy says, love your shirts, Chris. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is my Jesus. It says the way, the truth, and the life shirt. One of my favorites. Hey, there's Herman Munster says, howdy, y'all. 109 degrees Fahrenheit in Palm Springs, California today. Yeah, that's a little warm. it's a little on the hot side for sure. Life Done Cheap with Lee says, how long do you wait to rebreed her? I'd give her a week and then go ahead and rebreed her. You could theoretically do it right now. I mean, there's no reason you can't. But I always like to give them a little bit of time. Shane says, hello, Chris and viewers. Hello to you too. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. And Buck Reynolds says his buck, talking about the question I didn't know, said, how big of a litter is your first time out of check his genetics? It's just kind of a run-on sentence I'm having a hard time really kind of comprehending exactly. I think you're telling him check his genetics because of the smaller litter, maybe. David Lister says, our buck is 8 months. He was 7 months at breeding. That may have something to do with it. I mean, technically 6 months old should be old enough for a buck, but he may just need a little bit more time. So that definitely could have something to do with it. Is he a pedigree rabbit? I guess that's kind of along Buck's point, the genetics. Is he a pedigree rabbit? Do you know his genetics? Or is he just kind of a mutt? That may have something to do with it too. See, Hogwaller Creek says, I would take 109 over this humidity in the south. I'm ready for fall, cooler weather. Yeah. I don't know. California, Palm Springs, California, what's their humidity like there? It may be pretty high there too, but I don't know. Herman Munster says, well, hello, I have a question. Is 110 too hot to raise quail outside? Not if you keep them in the shade and make sure they have access to plenty of water. Um, no, we get 110 degrees sometimes, and my quail do just fine in it. I mean, yeah, they definitely are less comfortable, but they do okay. Abbott's Guns and Hobbies says, good evening. Just got home from work. Well, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you had a good day at work, and we're glad to see you. I'm one of the weird ones. I know everybody's like, it's so hot outside and complaining about it. I don't really think it's been that bad here. Like I said, we barely broke 90, so it hasn't been that hot here yet. We usually are much hotter, but really isn't that big of a deal to me. I don't mind the heat so much. Zora says, what age do you butcher your quail? I mean, it varies a lot. Usually I wait till they get to at least 8 weeks old. Most of the time I'm honestly waiting a couple of weeks past that because it just, whenever I get around to it kind of thing. And I've got some quail right now that I probably do need to process. I don't need them. I'm going to keep some of those as breeders, and I was waiting until they started laying eggs really good to process the rest of them. So that's going to happen here probably this weekend. Caesar says, on very hot days, I throw a cucumber in the cage. That's not a bad idea. Cucumbers are mostly water. That will help keep them hydrated and stuff. Could definitely do that. Sax Place says, I'd rather have the heat and humidity than the cold with snow. Yeah, it's never satisfying. I mean, honestly, yeah, I like the spring and I like the fall. They just don't last long enough. Fall means winter's coming, and winter's kind of brutal. I don't mind the winter. I kind of like the change in seasons. And what's one of the things I like about living where I live is that we do have all 4 seasons. And by the time that summer gets done, I am getting kind of sick of the heat. And I'm ready for fall and winter time, and I like to have a little bit of snow. By the time winter's done, I'm definitely ready for spring and then summer. So it's just kind of one of those. I mean, I like it having all those different changes in seasons. Rabbit says, anyone mess with pigeons? I have not. I've talked about doing it. I want to. I really like the idea of homing pigeons. I just think they're the coolest thing. But I've not gotten into it yet. Maybe somebody else here has, and they can speak to it. Desert Homestead says 115 plus in Phoenix all week. Quail, rabbit, and chicken are all alive, but not happy. Me too. Not happy. LOL. Yeah, I don't doubt it. Rabbit Homestead, he says, fall means death, spring means life. LOL. Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? It's a good representation of the resurrection, I guess. Shane says, I hatched 19 quail out of 48 eggs a couple of weeks ago. Only 22 were fertile. Had a water malfunction Saturday and lost 10 more. Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry to hear that. You said that only 22 were fertile. So only, I mean, you really don't know. Just because they didn't hatch doesn't mean they weren't fertile. You might, if you're hatching 22 out of 48, check your incubator, make sure that it's calibrated and it's actually running at the temperature it says it's running at. That's the most common issue with a low hatch rate. Anyway, that would be my suggestion. Don't just assume they weren't fertile. David Lister says, let's see. We're stationed in the Philippines in the mid-80s. We were stationed in the Philippines in the mid-80s. There were 2 seasons, hot and dry and hot and wet. I can imagine, yeah, it would probably be that way, wouldn't it? So this year, I mean, golly, we've gotten so much rain this year. It's crazy. It's supposed to rain. We've gone about, about a week now without any rain, which is, I mean, usually this time of year we're praying for rain. But we've gone a week without any rain, and it's supposed to rain. We got a chance of rain every day, like a 40 to 50% chance of rain starting tomorrow, every day through Wednesday of next week. So it's, we've had a lot of rain. It makes me have to mow my yard every weekend, but it's okay. Abbott's Guns and Hobbies says, my last hatch is 20 days old. Can they handle being put in the hutch with our temps hitting mid-90s? They should be okay. I mean, look at your nighttime lows. What are your nighttime lows getting down to? Are they acclimated to that? I usually move mine out right around 2 weeks. So they should be fine. Zora says, do you ever fillet the breast and have legs separate to cook with Coturnics? I almost always take the breast off the meat when I cook the quail. I sometimes I save the legs, sometimes I don't. But I usually, when I process quail anymore, I don't even bother skinning them all the way out. I just pop the breast out, and sometimes I'll go ahead and skin the legs out and take them. My wife kind of likes them. To me, they're hardly worth the effort. There's just a nibble on them, if anything. But I almost always cut the meat off the breastbone. I just find it's just not that hard to do, and it's a lot easier to eat. So that's the way I do it. Bruce says, mine start panting and become listless whenever temps get over 90. They'll adjust to that, though. I think it probably has something to do with, where you're at. Yeah, I've had issues with the birds kind of, when it first starts getting hot, they start eating a little bit less, but usually just after about a week of that, they're back to normal and don't really notice anything too different. S.O. Swanson says, I do that too. Yeah. Hogwaller Creek Farm says, we had 35.46 inches of rain so far this year. I don't know what ours is. Let me look it up real quick. Oh, let's see. Yeah, 32.52 inches so far this year. Our average is about 26 inches. So we're not really that far above average. It's just it all came in the summer. Hey, there's Verna. Good to see you. Says, hey, Chris, 15th like. I appreciate that. Thank you. Abbott says lows are in the mid 70s, kind of like where you are. So, yeah, they should be fine to go outside it now, I would think. Let's see. YPEJ. I don't know if that's supposed to, or VPEJ. I think that's what it is. VPEJ? I don't know. Says, I don't know about quail, but I put a little kid's pool out for the chickens. Do they get their feet in when it's super hot? Some seem to enjoy it. Oh, so they can get their feet in when it's super hot. I think it's so I think it's a typo there. It says, do they get their feet in? Do they can? That's what it says. So they can, I think is what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, you could do that for Coturnics, I suppose. Put a dish of water in there. My experience with open water with the Coturnics, because I've tried to water them in bowls before, is they do get in it for sure, but they also poop in it, and it just gets nasty really, really fast. So I don't know that that's a great idea, but you could try it. Bruce says, Chris is missing Verna. No, she's here. It's all good. Spider Revis says, hello, everyone. Question for the quail community. I noticed a good portion of my quails have little bumps around or in the eyelids. Is that a product of pecking or something else? Well, it could be. I don't know that I've ever noticed that too much. Let me look something up here real quick because I'm thinking. Let's see. Fowl pox is what I was wondering. You might look up what fowl pox looks like. You're probably going to have to look at like chicken pictures. I don't know if there's any. Let me see if I can find a picture of quail with bumps. You might. I mean, I'd be slightly concerned about that if they're not. Look it up, see what it looks like. Look at the fowl pox is what you're looking for, or avian pox, I think is another word for it. That's a pretty, not necessarily, I wouldn't say common thing, but it does make me think that may be the issue. It could be pecking, they could be pecked out, but usually when you see that, it's not bumps around the eyelids that you see. It's like their eyes become like swollen and inflamed and, obviously been pecked at. I mean, it's a pretty obvious thing usually, and it's usually not both eyes, and it's usually not multiple birds. So I'd be a little bit concerned about that. I don't know if there's any way to really confirm that without taking them to like a vet and having them tested or something. But that would be the one thing I might be a little bit concerned about. Desert Homestead says, I found some clay flower pot bottoms and put water in them like a bird bath. The quail stand in the water and cool their feet, and they seem to like it. I bet they would. Zora says, I'm downstream a bit from Kerr County with all its flooding last week. We only got 9 inches compared to the poor people just to the north. Yeah, that's a terrible thing. I've been praying for those people for sure. I've been on rivers when there's a flash flood, or not on the river, but on the, like camping out and stuff like that when the river starts coming up, and it can come up very quick. I don't think I've ever been in anything quite as severe as that, but there have been a few times where we had to, really haul out of there to get out of the way. And, sometimes you have to leave stuff behind, and, it gets flooded out. But I've never been anything quite that extreme. When I was a young kid, we were camping. I'm a young kid. I probably wasn't 5 years old or so. And I vaguely remember this. We were camping and the river had come up. We were in the middle of the night. We were sleeping and the river had come up. My mom said, I don't remember this part, but my mom said she woke up with water in the tent that we were in and looked down, and all she could see was my face, about this much of it. The rest of me was underwater, and I wasn't even asleep. I was still asleep. So, she grabbed us real quick and we took out of there. But and I remember that part, getting out of there and rushing to get out while the river was coming up. But yeah, do pray for those people in Texas and those floods. Those were terrible things. New Mexico, I guess, got pretty bad flooding too. A couple people died there. Let's see. Bruce says, good idea, Desert. I agree. That was a good idea. Let's see. Abbott's Guns and Hobbies says, with the grass growing like crazy, I've been putting the clippings on the quail poop under the cage to try and keep the flies down. Yeah, is it working? It's kind of interesting. Berna says, AI says it can be avian pox, or eye worms. Yeah, fowl pox, avian pox. I think it's the same thing. Or eye worms. I've never heard of eye worms before. I kind of doubt that's really it. I would lean more towards maybe avian pox, and even then, I don't know. There's a way to know for sure on that. I guess if that heals up on its own, and I don't know if that's. I don't even honestly even know how to exactly treat that. Let's see, what is there a treat? Let's see. I don't. I guess it would just be antibiotics to treat it. I mean, it's a bacterial infection. I don't really know. I couldn't find anything quickly and easily. Abbott's Gun and Hobby says somewhat. Still have flies, though. Cuts down on the smell, though. Well, good. The biggest thing that's helped with my flies is, and I just get them naturally, is black soldier fly. They, when they move in and they lay their eggs there, and then they, the larva starts to develop in the manure piles, basically. Then those things compost everything and they drive the flies off. So I don't really have a big problem with flies. And I get people all the time asking about how do you control the flies and things like that, but I don't really have a huge issue, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm kind of lucky that way. If you don't have black soldier fly in your area, I think you can order them. That may be worth doing because it does work. It does keep the flies down. Hogwaller says, let's see, Hogwaller Creek Homestead says, I thought there were some eye drops for that. Probably antibiotic eye drops. And Verna says, another thing it can be is a vitamin A deficiency. Yeah, if you're feeding a game bird feed, a commercial game bird feed or something, that's unlikely, but it's a possibility, I suppose. Rabbit Homestead says, to Abbott's Guns and Hobbies, sounds like a good idea. Better compost mixture too. Yeah, I mean, for sure. Grass clippings make good compost, and they compost really fast. They break down really fast. Not quite enough. The thing I would worry about would be that grass clippings are a good combination of nitrogen compost, or nitrogen carbon. When they start to dry out, they become more carbon, of course. But when you first put them on there green, they're going to be mostly nitrogen, mixing with mostly nitrogen manure, so they may not break down all that fast. It needs a good mix of almost equal parts carbon to nitrogen to be able to produce compost and break down. And if that happens and it gets anaerobic, then it's going to start smelling pretty bad. But if it's working, it's working. So let's see. Kyle says, I asked you about 2 months ago if you thought quail would adapt to a rabbit nipple because I was transitioning to quail. I'd like to pass on that they easily adapted. Well, good deal. Glad to hear that. I mean, I guess they would, but I don't know are you talking about a nipple or like the ball that the rabbits lick to get water out of? You're talking about an actual rabbit nipple? like the rabbits bite down on to get water out of? Because that seems unlikely that they would do that. But I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just kind of curious now what you're talking about for sure to make sure we got the same thought. V Pedge, whatever your name is, says, what about putting baking soda under your quail pen? Should cut down on the smell and help kill flies. I don't know. I've never tried that. I mean, that'd be an awful lot of baking soda, though, wouldn't it? I don't know. Try it if you want to. S.O. Swanson says, houseflies lay eggs in the manure. Black soldier fly process the manure, eggs and all. Black soldier fly for the win, for sure. They're fantastic. They compost down. I mean, it's incredible how much they go through. I don't really have to clean out from underneath my hutches all summer long because they just do a good job. Aquatic News Network is here. Says, hello, Earthlings. Hello to you, too. Thank you for joining us. Let's see. And then goes on to say, late but present and accounted for. Hey, that's okay. You know, we don't keep attendance, so we're glad you joined. Thanks for joining tonight. We got now about 20 minutes left. We're doing all right. Rabbit Homestead says, yeah, dry clippings, I was thinking. I don't know I'm not sure what that, is that a response to putting grass clippings on the manure pile? Yeah, if they were dried out, that would be better probably, because then they would break down a little bit faster for sure, and you wouldn't have as much of a chance of it becoming anaerobic. Now, the only other thing I would worry about would be, I mean, it's summertime and it's hot out, and when compost starts to break down, it gets pretty hot. I don't know that depending on how high above the quail are above that, I don't know that it would put off enough heat to really heat the hutch up anymore, but it doesn't take much to make it much, much hotter inside there. So that's the only thing I might worry about. Where are we at here? We got a couple. So Kyle says a nipple, no ball. Really? They can bite on that hard enough to get water out of it? I'm kind of surprised. Interesting. Hogwaller Creek Homestead says, I put hydrated lime on the poo piles. That would work. Hey, Max, knock it off, buddy. Quit. He's scratching, or he's got skin allergies, so he licks his paws and stuff, and it causes him to get inflamed. I have to kind of get him to stop every once in a while. You guys probably can't see him. He's laying down here back behind me. But, all right. Hogwaller Creek Homestead says they use that in outhouses. Lime. Did it not say lime? I think it did say lime, didn't it? Anyway, yeah, I've heard of using that before too, so I suppose it works pretty well. Buck Reynolds says get a bag of lime and put under your pens and it will hold down the smell. There you go. So there's some good suggestions for that too. I've heard of people using hydrated lime for controlling that before. It's an old farmer's trick, and I don't see why it wouldn't work. Zora says, I had to switch from the water cups with yellow tabs like you use to gravity cups because I had quail perch on the yellow tab water bowls and drain all 5 gallons out. I've had that issue from time to time, and hang on just a second. I've had birds that would stand on it, and what I usually do, I just put a piece of wire above it so they can still get their head under the wire, but they can't quite stand on it. That does a pretty good job for me. Then usually it's only one bird that's doing it, so I usually just call that bird out in the end. Bruce says, do you compost the poop in the lime, and does it change the pH in your compost piles? That's a good question. I mean, I don't know if anybody's taken the pH readings of it. Does lime change pH? I don't know. I know peat moss would, but does lime? Let's see what Google says. It says it can change the pH of the lime, but it's generally not recommended to add lime to a compost pile to adjust the pH. While lime used to raise the pH of soil, it can negatively impact the composting process and the quality of the finished product. Here's why, and there's a whole bunch more reading there, so I don't know that it would be that big of an issue, but if you're interested, Google it, because there's a whole bunch of information on Google that tells you why you may not want to do that, but I don't know. Zora says drain. Oh, yeah, I knew what you meant. They drain a 5-gallon. Did I say grain? It said grain, but I think I read it right. Drain, right? Kyle says they peck at it like a cup. Oh, at the water nipples, huh? Interesting. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm honestly surprised that they're getting any water out of it, but hey, good deal. David Lister says, I've seen a few black soldier flies in or near our quail hut. Any way to increase their numbers? Yeah, there may be some ways to do that. I don't know that you need to if they're around already. I hardly ever see the flies themselves, just occasionally. Only see one or two, but the manure piles underneath my hutches get infested with the larvae. So I don't know that you need to worry about it. If you've seen a couple, they're probably coming. It's really just been like within the last week that I'm starting to see them in there. So maybe 2 weeks. So just give it a little bit of time. They'll probably pick up. And Verna says, I would say keep chickens away from it and don't stir it up. It's good advice. The chickens will clean them out for sure. Abbott's Guns and Hobbies says, a hutch like yours pile is maybe 1.5 inches tall. Hutch is under the carport cover. No sides on it. What was it? What were we talking? Oh, is that about putting the grass clippings on the manure pile underneath it? So, it's probably okay. Like I said, I don't know that it would be an issue. I don't know that they'd heat up enough, but it may be something that you want to kind of watch and see. A compost pile will get hot. When it's breaking down, it'll get really hot. You'd be like 120, 130 degrees hot in the middle, but that doesn't always radiate out either. So it may not be a big issue. Bruce says to feed the black soldier flies. They eat anything and everything. They do. Yeah, in the summertime when I've got a lot of black soldier fly larvae under the hutch, if I have a bird that dies, I can throw it under there and it's gone within like 2 days. The Desert Homestead says, all my quail were just standing in the water cups too, just standing next to it with 1 foot on the yellow piece. After giving them a dish to stand in, they quit. Well, there you go. There's a good idea. David says, our quail are in Winola cages, so the trays go to compost every couple of days. Yeah, I'm sure it works fine. So Swanson says, if your quail sit in the water cups, they are installed too low, raise them up. Yeah, that's not a bad suggestion. You could raise them up a little bit higher, for sure. You could also probably, if you were to raise them up a little bit higher, maybe tilt them down a little bit so they're at a downward kind of phase and make it a little bit harder for them to stand in. They could still peck at it and get water out of it, but they wouldn't be able to necessarily stand in it if instead of it sitting like this, if it was sitting like this, maybe. I think that would work. That seems like it should. Verna says, David, you could always take the bottom tray out so that the black soldier can have food. I don't know. Oh, you mean take the tray out and let it drop to the ground? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I guess if you're moving the trays to the compost every couple of days, you're probably not going to draw a lot of black soldier fly in because you're dumping them in the compost pile. But I don't know. Abbott's Guns and Hobbies says, David Lister, move out here to Northeast Oklahoma and you can get your fill of flies right now. LOL. Yeah, he's not talking about regular flies. He's talking about black soldier fly. It's different. Rabbit Homestead says, if they sit on the cup, I would just eat it. Yeah, that's kind of what I do too, usually. If I have an issue with some of my birds, I just eat them and replace them, and hopefully the next ones don't have that issue. Hogwaller Creek Homestead says, my pile has about a foot, was about a foot tall about a week ago, and the larva has it down to like 1 inch now. The whole ground is moving, LOL. Yeah, they're the best thing ever. They are the greatest thing ever to happen. They get under my quail hutch, under my rabbit hutches. They compost all that stuff down. Chris says, love black soldier flies. Keep away annoying house flies. They do. Yeah, I don't have hardly any flies out there right now because of that. David says, no, nope, actually. On removing the bottom tray, they're inside a hut with a floor. Yeah, I kind of thought that might be the case. Bruce says, I trade chicken eggs to a neighbor for poop from their dogs. which I use in ranch-style fly traps, doesn't make flies go away, but controls where they go. There you go. I was wondering what you were doing with dog poop. That seems like a weird thing to trade for. Seems like they would be willing to give it to you for free, especially if you were to go over and clean it up yourself. But yeah, it doesn't hurt. Throw some eggs their way, especially if you got more than you need. But yeah, you could definitely create fly traps. Why not? Zora says, I capture large spiders and release lots inside my coop. My roof is covered with webs. The spiders can eat all the flies that get trapped. That's another thought too, isn't it? David says, to Abbott's Guns and Hobbies, we're in McAllister and have our own natural supply of flies. Yeah, you're not too far down the road either. Well, McAllister's a little way from me. It's probably a close to 4 hours drive. I mean, it's a ways. Used to drive through there all the time when we were going back and forth from Texas to Missouri. Kyle says, what part of the quail do you discard before you grind to make food for Max? I've done it a couple of different ways. I've tried grinding whole entire quail. I mean, feathers, everything, just whole quail. I did a video on that a while back, actually. He didn't really care for that too much, so we had to mix it in with other stuff to get him to eat it. So really, going forward, what I would do is probably skin them, because it's kind of a mess to send the feathers through the. It's a good source of fiber, but sending it through the grinder is kind of a mess, kind of difficult to do. So I might skin them out and probably throw away everything in the inside except for maybe the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys. You know, save those, and the rest of it can go through the grinder. That would be my thought. Desert Homestead says, do you think black soldier flies will keep ants away? I don't notice. I mean, I think they would if you have an ant. I mean, they're not going to go out of their way to go find the ants. So, I mean, do you have an ant problem in your manure pile? If you did, then yes, black soldier flies would probably help with that a little bit. But I don't know that it'd be a real effective ant deterrent. Verna says, I used to just freeze the birds whole and feed them frozen to Lucy. She loved them. Yeah, my dog doesn't eat whole prey for some reason. He's got a super strong prey drive, and he'll take out any small animal. But once he's dispatched it, he doesn't have any interest in it. He won't eat them whole. Swanson says, let's see. S.O. Swanson says, no, the black soldier fly will not eat live insects like ants. No, I don't think they would either, but they might be a deterrent for them in the manure pile anyway. I mean, that would be my guess. I don't know. I don't know that it'd be super effective, though, like I said. How are we doing on time? We got 7 minutes left. See what we can do. We got no chats coming in all of a sudden. So what do I have here? What do I have? Let's see. Do I have any good stories to tell you? Oh, Verna's leaving. Says, blessings. Got to get ready for Sewing Terriers Live. Have fun, Verna. Tell her we said hi, and hopefully she has a good broadcast. Let's see. I told you guys I went fishing on Monday. It was a slow day. I only caught about 9 fish total. We floated, I don't know, it's probably about a 5-mile float down Sugar Creek in Pineville, Missouri. And a beautiful river. I mean, it's crystal clear water. Great to swim in and fish in. But anyway, there was a guy there that had a bucket of fish, bass in it. And I had a bucket sitting on the bank, and he was on the bank. And the game warden came down to check him and said he wanted to see his fishing license. We're sitting out there in the boats watching this all. And he says, asked the guy for his fishing license. The guy says, what fishing license for what? And he says, well, you got a bucket full of you're fishing. You need a fishing license. And he said, no, I didn't catch these. These are my pet fish. And the game warden said, what are you talking about, pet fish? No, he says, no, I bring them out here every day, let them swim, and then I just call them back. They get back in the bucket. And the game warden said, yeah, I'd like to see that for sure. And he says, well, let me show you. He takes the fish, he dumps them out in the water there, and they start swimming around, and the game warden and him are talking for a bit. And finally the game warden's like, okay, call them back. He's like, what do you mean? He says, call your fish back. He says, what fish? What are you talking about? Stupid joke. But anyway, you get it. Kyle says, how's the garden this year? Well, didn't do a garden this year. We took a year off of gardening. So really, there's not much to talk about there. We did have a volunteer tomato plant come up. It's not really doing anything. I haven't watered or anything, just kind of letting the rain take care of it. It's not, I don't know that it's going to grow and do anything, but we did have one. But that's it. Nothing else. The only other thing, we had dill, a bunch of dill that came up in where we had planted it before, just came up voluntarily. Whole bunch, huge dill harvest. But other than that, that's about it. Let's see. Hogwaller Creek says, have a good weekend. You too. Hopefully you do. Shane says, everyone have a great evening. Thank you. You too. S.O. Swanson says, that was cute, Chris, making it sound like you were there. Yeah, it's a dumb joke. I know, but I had to fill some time, so that's the best I could do, short notice. Desert Homestead says, I feed my chicken dried black soldier flies, and the ants go into my brand new box unopened and engulfed it. The box was in the house with a 1-inch trail to the door. Oh, man, if you have a problem in the house with ants, I would suggest taro, ant poison, ant killer, whatever it is. I mean, that stuff works really, really well. Especially if they're like sweet, sugar eating ants, because they just swarm to it and it takes care of them. It does a great job. I would use that. And the kind I always got was it was like in a little tube or something. It's like a liquid, and or kind of a gelish kind of liquid. Take a piece of cardboard and you just put a little daub of it on there and set it in a spot where the ants are coming and they swarm to it, devour it all, and then you never see them again. Zora says, good night, all. Thank you for your help. You're welcome. David says, quail versus sunflowers from the garden. Any problems? Quail versus sunflowers from the garden? I don't know. What do you mean? Like, are they going to fight the sunflowers? Because I think the quail would win. But feeding them sunflowers, is that what you're saying? I don't know of any issues with that. I think they should be able to handle it. You might want to, if you don't have a sandbox, you want to make sure they have some kind of grit. If they have a sandbox, they'll use the sandbox as grit to help digest and break up the seeds, but it should be fine. Aquatic News Network says, wonderful as always. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Desert Homestead says, sugar ants, indoor and outdoor. I've tried everything, but there is so many. It's an uphill battle. Oh. David says, can they eat them? Yeah, I kind of figured that out, I think. I mean, I don't see any reason why they can't. If they will, they can. Just like I said, you'll want to make sure they have some grit available to them to help digest that and break it up. But yeah, that's, it's part of their, in the wild, they eat a lot of seeds and things. So yeah, they should be able to do that. No problem. We got 2 minutes. What can we get done in 2 minutes? Aquatic News Network says, my quail would. We have sunflower all over, so it was inevitable that they'd eat some. Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't. Makes sense to me. And again, if you have a sandbox, you don't need to worry about adding extra grit. They just need something to be able to, access to something that can act as grit to help break things up. S.O. Swanson says, chop up the leaves, David. They can eat them, and chop up the seeds too. Well, there you go. I never thought about feeding the leaves to them. I guess why not? All right, we got about another minute left, and then we're going to wrap this one up for tonight. And the chat's kind of dead all of a sudden. So, well, while we're waiting on another chat or two to come in, I'm going to try to get a video out for you guys this weekend. I'm not sure what yet I'm going to talk about, but I'll try, come up with a good topic and film some video. I do have to probably process some birds this weekend. Got to mow the yard if it's not raining all weekend, because it's already, it hasn't even been a week and it's already grown up quite a bit. But I'll do my best to get a video out too. Aquatic News Network says, live or dead, if I'm overrun with snails, the birds handle that too. Interesting. Kyle says, quail tractor plans. I don't have any plans for a quail tractor. I've never thought about doing it. I don't know. I'll see. I'll put that in the notes somewhere and see if maybe sometime I can come up with that. All right. Keanu says, have a good weekend. Thanks, Chris. You're welcome. S.O. Swanson says, well, Chris, thank the missus for sharing you and sharing your time and knowledge. Oh, well, thank you. I'll tell her that for sure. And Rabbit Homestead says, nice chatting. Hopefully I make it next week. Always learning something. Take care all. You too. Yep. All right. It's that time to wrap this one up. Thank you all for joining tonight. I appreciate that. Always great hanging out with you for a few. Should be back next week. Don't know any reason why I won't be. Hopefully we get to see you all again then. And until then, as always, God bless.